You're watching the Business Channel, creating business class programs. Facilities management is an area that's perhaps misunderstood by many people. Well, here to tell me more is Chris Hoar, who is Chief Executive of the Facilities Management Association. Hello to you.
Good morning.
Now, what is FM these days?
The best way to describe FM is it's the biggest hidden industry in the UK. Imagine your journey to work on a daily basis. Nearly every part of your journey is affected by the FM industry. Now, you may find that difficult to believe, but think about your journey, the traffic lights, car parking, trains, infrastructure. You get to your office, the door opens, it's clean, the lighting works, the food you eat for breakfast is very good, the security guards, friendly reception, the air conditioning's working. It's all taken for granted until something goes wrong. That's when you discover what the FM industry is.
Now, we have hard and soft services. What combination of the two of these are typically involved in an FM package?
If you take a typical commercial building, soft services, reception, post room, finance, HR, that's all been outsourced now. So those are the soft services. The hard services are basically what makes the building tick in terms of the structure. It used to be more hard services, but now as companies decide to outsource more non-critical parts of their businesses, then the soft services are being put into the FM package. So I think it's about 50-50 now.
Now, how big do you think the FM industry is in the UK?
The government, and we always believe the government tell us that it's in excess of £100 billion a year. So that is a significant industry. It's about 5% of GDP. Therefore, its contribution to the economy is huge. And if, for example, and this will never happen, the FM industry decided to go on strike, the whole of the infrastructure in the UK would collapse. That's how important it is to the economy of the UK.
What's the scope, do you think, for FM to run a building as a single intelligent system?
It depends on the building. But with the latest innovations in terms of technology, computer-aided FM systems, there is no reason why an FM company cannot physically run the whole building using technology. But some of the building stock in the UK is quite old, and installing the technology into listed buildings could be a bit difficult.
How much scope do you think is there for FM people to get involved at the design of a building, to design in systems that will work?
I think that is one of the most important things the FM industry can do, because as new buildings are designed, there needs to be consultation with the FM companies to find out how they're actually physically going to be run after they're handed over. And that is so important, and it's happening more and more. We see architects with specialist FM divisions, construction companies consulting with FM companies right at the design stage. And clients who have commissioned the buildings think it's very important that when they take over their building, that their FM contractor has the ability to run it how it was designed. And with their input in the design, that makes that very important.
Now, what role do you really see the FM industry in having in reducing carbon emissions of buildings?
98% of the buildings in the UK are old stock. So there has to be a way in which the FM industry can take those buildings, look at the energy conservation problems, look at sustainability, look at zero carbon. And one of the ways that can be done is using the latest technologies. We can now monitor energy consumption right down to desktop level. So with the use of latest technology, with the supply chain bringing in the technology to help the FM companies, it is going to be possible. Combined heat and power, for example, is going to be used in existing buildings, but each building is different. So the FM company itself has to have the experience to deliver the energy conservation and the savings.
Do you think it's better for companies to get a whole FM package or to bring in contracts task by task?
There's a trend at the moment towards something called TFM, which is Total Facilities Management. And it's a client decision. I'll give you an example. Down at Canary Wharf, there are two buildings, huge buildings opposite each other, a set of traffic lights. In one building, the client, who's a global client, has gone separate services because he feels that he gets better service. So he's gone catering, security, M&E, all separate. Building opposite, the client has gone one contractor globally because they feel they get better service. So it's a personal choice. But a lot of the major contractors in the FM industry are now beefing up their capability. So I think they will drive the market rather than the client, because we've seen lots of acquisitions and we've seen global FM companies now being able to deliver global FM contracts for large clients. But it's a culture thing for the client and it's a personal thing.
How do you think good performance in FM can be measured?
I think there is a way it can be measured, and that is through the productivity of the people working in the building. This may be slightly controversial, but if you think of the working environment, it plays a huge part in the productivity that people deliver for their companies. So if the working environment isn't up to scratch and isn't delivering what the people want, the productivity will go down. There are other ways you can measure it. You can measure energy consumption, you can measure whether the windows are clean, you can measure whether the carpets have been cleaned, you can measure the attitude of the security guards, but at the end of the day, delivering the working environment and increasing the productivity, that's a win-win situation for the client and the FM contractor and the people actually working in the building.
And FM is getting more recognition as a discipline, isn't it?
The FM industry has now become a profession. We have good degrees in FM being delivered by universities around the country. We have the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors who have now got involved with the FM industry, so you can be a chartered engineer in FM. The FMA, my association, are about to launch a degree in FM as well for our members. So there's a lot of work taking place to upskill the industry. And the reason we need to do that is because we want to attract young people into the industry. We want to attract people from other industries like the hospitality industry and the retail industry into the FM sector. And I think we want to grab hold of the schools and the universities and tell people what a great career path there is in the FM sector.
Well, Chris Hoar from the FMA, thank you very much.
You're welcome, thank you.